makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagelia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Anum Khan. Anum is the founder and CEO of Elevate Your Career Coaching. With a rich background in staffing and recruiting, she has dedicated over a decade to helping professionals navigate their career path. Her approach blends traditional strategies with innovative AI tools, making her a trusted guide in career advancement. Hi Anum, thank you so much for giving me that chance to have this conversation with you today. So can you share with us what initially drew you to the staffing and recruiting industry over a decade ago?
What drew me there? Well, I got a job opportunity and I moved to New York City all within 2 weeks. And I wasn't doing anything in recruiting and staffing before that. I was working as an administrative assistant for a company called Freddie Mac. And after that, I got an opportunity to interview with a referral, a contact that I had. My current boss at Freddie Mac actually was always talking to me about how I wanted to grow and what I wanted to do. And so he put me in touch with somebody and I got the interview and I got the job. And when I got the job, I came home and I told my parents, I'm moving to the biggest city, New York City, the Big Apple. See you, bye. And they looked at me like, huh, what? And, I spent my entire life here in Northern Virginia I'm very close to my parents. I have 2 sisters. And so none of us went away for college. I'm brought up here, but born in Pakistan. And thankfully, I have parents who are very supportive. And so even though I didn't leave home to go to college, it was the first time I was ever leaving. Okay. So I came home and I wasn't really sure, after I got this job opportunity, I wasn't really sure how they were going to react about the fact that I just wanted to move. So I said, well, I start in 2 weeks. And they were like, so you're leaving to move there? And I said, yeah, I'm going to move there. And of course, they asked me questions and stuff. But like I said, they've always been so supportive of my career and education and all of those things that they weren't going to hold me back. And they said, you know what, go for the opportunity. And my dad took me the following week and we went and picked out an apartment, I was just shocked. And I packed my bags and I was starting my new job 2 weeks later. And it was in staffing and recruiting.
Wow. But your boss must really, really like you to, not just like you, but to allow you to actually even to leave. Because sometimes boss, when you're so good in what you do, they don't want to lose you. They just kind of keep you there, But it was a good thing what your boss did.
Yeah. I mean, he was like a mentor to me. And we talked about transitioning for a long time. And he was really good about that. And it's so funny because I actually got laid off the first 6 months into the role when I started that job. And I got rehired in a promotion. So it was great because he really kind of, pushed me and said, you got this. And so things were starting to just become stagnant. And he knew that I was meant for more. And I kept kind of, at that point, I was already, thinking about leaving. But I think he already kind of knew that as well. But he was a great mentor. So he pushed me, he definitely used his resources to help me.
I love that. So you mentioned facing challenges like salary cuts and tough corporate environment in New York. How did these experiences shape your approach to career development?
Can you ask that one more time? Sorry.
No, I mean, you mentioned facing challenges like salary cuts and tough corporate environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a lot of stories to tell you there. So when I left and I started on, that Monday morning, I was like, I'm going to the big city and I'm going to be so successful. And I started as an account executive initially. So I was basically not recruiting directly in, but I was making relationships with accounts that they already had. And my job was to grow those accounts. And so little did I know that when I got there, it wasn't going to be just a walk in the park, but my dedication as, a person who is very committed and determined to my career, hence why I picked up my bags and moved in all of 2 weeks. I got there and I was really thriving. I mean, initially, as soon as I arrived, I came into their monthly magazine and newsletter as the top account executive in the company. And I mean, I was really like, wow, I would just walk into these meetings with some of the executives and I would tell them the story. I would just tell them like, this is what I know and this is what I don't know. And they really appreciated that honesty. And it was big companies like Morgan Stanley and their EDs, their executive teams, I would be sitting in front of talking to and convincing them to work with me. And that's what exactly worked. And when you talk about the struggles, well, even though that was working and I had, newsletters and things to prove it, I would be pretty honest. I didn't really start to see any of the commissions or the money that I should have been making. And salary cuts, that was right then and there. I moved my entire life to be there. And one day I got called into the office and they told me that they were going to slash my salary $10,000 and that I needed to do more sales in order for me to make the salary that they had agreed with me.
Wow.
And so I was shocked. And of course, I was already really struggling in that environment. And so at that moment, I was just like, this can't be real. I mean, I planned my entire move based on the salary, budgeting myself and doing all of those things. And so ultimately, there had been other things that had happened in that environment that wasn't really working out. But that was kind of what broke everything for me when they kind of told me they're not going to be able to pay me my salary and they're taking $10,000 away. And mind you, I hadn't even seen any of the commissions. And when I asked about, well, what about this account or this account that I closed? The response was, well, we had already been working on this before you came on board. Yeah. So with that being said, I was completely shocked and didn't know what to do, but I will tell you what I did. I did actually walk away. I just couldn't take it. And I said, I'm going to leave. And I don't think that was something, that was expected. And I knew I was doing something major. I knew that I had rent to pay. Yes. I knew that I moved my entire life here based on this thing, but I had confidence, I guess, in myself to say, I'm not going to let anything or anyone treat me this way. And I'm going to get myself back up and I'm going to keep going. So I quit the job and they asked me to stay. Initially, they said, okay, bye, see you later. But then my boss who hired me here in Northern Virginia actually came to me and said, look, you're really good at sales and I don't want to lose you. Why don't you come back home? And if you come back home, I will teach you everything from that you need to learn. And I'll do it all over here. And you probably miss your family and you want to come back home. And he said, you have a non-compete. And so I said, okay, I listened to him for a minute. And then after that, he said, I have a new girl who started in the Philadelphia office and she just quit and I just let her go. But I don't care if she goes and gets those accounts because it's whatever. She can do it. And he looked at me and he said, but if you do it, I'm going to come after you. And I was like, I don't know if that's a compliment or a threat. Because he said, and there was a pen on the table and he pushed the pen my way and he said, you're so good at sales that if I wanted you to sell this pen, you could sell it. And he said that, you were, I know that about you. And I said, so I'm not sure if this is a compliment or, what this is, because he said, if you go back to those accounts, if you try to break the non-compete like that other girl, he said, I'm coming after you. And that's because he knew that I had success there.
Yes.
And he didn't want me to go and take that success to another company. And in that moment, I said, well, thank you for the opportunity that you're offering, but I'm going to have to decline and move on. And that's what I did. So this can continue to go if you want me to.
How did you end up starting your own business?
So how did I end up starting my own business is that's when I actually left. And here's where it gets really good, right? When I left, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know how to get that next job. I didn't know who to turn to. And I didn't want to turn around and come back home.
Yes.
I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my family that I quit my job. Nobody knew. But I made it a point to say to myself that I did door-to-door sales in Brooklyn, New York, because I had to make rent. But as I was doing all of that, I built a very strategic strategy. And when I say a strategic strategy, I mean, I kept looking around. I was going to career fairs. I was going to places, but I was like, how do I get a hold of the people that I want to talk to and tell them about my story? So in that moment, I turned to LinkedIn. And when I turned to LinkedIn, I realized that, wow, this is a platform with thousands and thousands of people, which I have no prerequisite, like no admin, no person that I need to go through to get to this person. And it was like a light bulb moment where I was like, wow, okay. And I utilized it. But when you come to coaching, I utilized it in a way where I built a roadmap, I built a plan, I built a strategy around how I was going to network and how I was going to get the next opportunity. And I did that. And after that, I had 2 offers in my hand. I came home and I told my parents what happened, and they were completely shocked because I got the jobs that I wanted to get. And then after that, I kept having to switch because staffing and recruiting is such a cutthroat industry, I would call it. And at that in New York City. So I climbed the corporate ladder. I built that strategy, and I proved that strategy, not by just myself, but even ones around me. Yes. But in my mind, I continued going after the jobs that I wanted and going after the salary that I wanted. And I continued to climb the corporate ladder. And in the back of my mind, I always loved coaching, and I knew I was helping so many people, but I didn't have it in me to actually just walk away from, that comfort of a job. And so ultimately, after a decade of having, that experience and knowing the gaps and the struggles and knowing exactly how to, get that job, I finally landed at, Business Insider. I don't know if you've heard of them, but a digital media company where I was able to, build all of their recruiting for tech and product from the ground up.
Wow.
And I hired, hundreds of engineers, and I built a whole team, and I did it was what I wanted. And I, got there, and I stayed there, and I built a team, and I did everything. But it came time for me to start questioning myself, like I would question the ones around me as I was coaching on the side, to really go after what you want to go after. And it becomes hard when you have that comfort. But I decided that I want to really do this full time. And I, not only started coaching and showing people how to do this, but I also built a 12-week program that I offer alongside with my coaching services.
Man, this is amazing. You did all that. So now, how do you integrate AI tools into your career coaching strategy? What impact has this had in your clients?
Yeah. So the biggest push that I always used to get from people was saying, wow, I didn't know that recruiters do this, or I didn't know that this is what happens. And on the back end, what's going on. And I would just share it because it's a passion of mine. It's what I like to talk. And it's exactly what I want to talk about. And I'm keeping up with industry, insights and what's happening to the market and being aware of that stuff. So it was that thing that was like the lens of a recruiter, right? Almost like people wanting to know things about what happens after you apply and what happens, in that process on the other side. And as a hiring manager and as a recruiter, I wanted to build my coaching services on the lens of a recruiter, in a sense of, being able to give people the insight that they may not see or they may not know about. I'll give you an example. So for example, let's say, a lot of people think, well, I've applied to so many jobs and I just keep pushing my resume forward and nobody's getting back to me. Nothing is happening. I've done 4 ATS implementations in my career, which is an applicant tracking system. And that's what companies use to, get all of their applicants come into that system. And then as recruiters, that's how we basically go through all of the talent that's coming in and how do we narrow it down and all of that stuff. So people would ask me questions about things like, what happens after you apply? And the reality is if a recruiter and a hiring manager sees a piece of paper with all of the things that they want, the emotional roller coaster starts immediately for them because it's your first impression. Your first impression is actually on paper, no matter any which way you look at it. Your first impression to a company, to a hiring manager, to a recruiter is when they open up your career material. When they look at your resume, they look at your cover letter, they look at your LinkedIn profile. That's what they're basing their first impression on. Now, if your first impression is customized and your first impression is telling a story about you and your first impression is putting all of the keywords that you want in your resume to stand out and be seen, then when we look at that resume as a recruiter or as a hiring manager, our emotions, like I said, start immediately. Because when I pass that resume over to a hiring manager and a hiring manager takes a look at that resume, they immediately say, oh my God, to the recruiter, I want this person. Now, they haven't even spoken to this person, but they say, this is the guy, this is the girl, this is exactly who I want. They have all of the things that I need, right? And that emotional part of it starts right there. And a lot of times, candidates have no idea. Candidates think that they're having to, they're not confident going in because they feel like they have to prove to the company. But the reality is it's a two-way street, right? And the company has to prove to you and you have to prove to the company. And so when I tell people that when we as recruiters and hiring managers see all of those things on that paper, we immediately become very interested. And so it's things like that where candidates don't know or don't see that. And so they feel less confident going into the interviews and applying and doing all of those things. So there's a way behind it.
So now when it's come to, as a career coach, I'm guessing you work with the person who's looking for a job, but do you also work with companies?
So for right now, I work with early to mid-career professionals who are already in the corporate landscape and already are in a corporate job. Okay. So I wouldn't really say, of course, I'd love to help people who are looking for jobs, but this is more for people who want to advance their careers. Yes. People who are looking for that next jump, that next big job, that dream fulfilling job, if you will. And so I work with professionals who are really wanting to actually do something about their careers. And I say this to my clients all the time, as if I'm going to help you. I'm here to help you. But at the same time, I'm going to also need you to work and want to do this.
Yes.
And it's for people who are really willing and wanting to, because in my course, it's very interactive. I have guides I have modules and guides, and then I have assignments that I give to my clients after each module. And I don't want them to go from, I don't want them to go straight to step 5. I want them to go step 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's because there's a reason behind that. And so I have them complete those assignments so that by the end of the 12 weeks, they actually have a career roadmap and a tangible thing to actually walk away with for the future.
For the future, yes. I love that. But also, do you offer them one-on-one?
Yes. So the way that it works is if you sign up for my course, then I provide right now, and I'm going to start doing group coaching, but right now I'm doing one-on-one coaching. So I meet with my clients once a week. And then they're also going through the course, which is a 12-week program. And so they come to me on a weekly basis for questions, guidance, things that they need. And then when I'm not with them, obviously at that time, they're doing the course. There's assignments, like I said, so they're very engaged and busy while doing it, because at the end of the day, I say the ROI for the work that you put in is once you can assess what your skills and the market demands and all of those things, which I walk you through in my course. Once you know all of that stuff, then you can actually, hit the salary numbers that you want to. You can actually get the job that you want to. So I say, if you follow all the steps, and my clients see anywhere from 20 to 35% salary increases, which is a big number.
Yes, it is. But also, I feel like your focus also comes from your experience. Because like you said before, you knock down LinkedIn to figure it out how to build your own career. So pretty much you're taking that experience and you're teaching it to others to do the same.
Exactly. And that's everything that's also in my course. It's that strategy that I put together 11 years or 12 years ago, right over a decade ago. I now have mastered it and I'm teaching it to people in a way where it's eliminating all of those gaps that I had to go through.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm explaining to them in my course and through these assignments exactly how to get where they want to get to. And it makes them go through each and every assignment, meaning, when they do the skills assessment, when they do the market analysis, setting their goals and how they want to move forward. It's an entire career roadmap.
But I have a question for you, though. So if you have a client that is looking to, let's say they already know the company they want to apply for, so they need someone to look at the resumes or whatever are they doing something wrong before they even apply for that job? Is that something that you kind of guide them through?
Absolutely. So they start with the skills assessment. Then they go into the market analysis and market demands. Then they go into assessing. After they've assessed their skills, they actually start to build their career goals. And those goals then go into, targeting the companies they want. It goes into exactly what they're looking for. And then I show them exactly how to optimize all of their career material in my course. So they'll be shown, okay, I'm giving them not only my advice as a recruiter on how your resume and cover letter and LinkedIn should look, but I'm also showing them how to optimize all of their career material based on their findings in their skills assessment, goals, market analysis. So like I said, it all goes step by step, because then what they do is they target specific organizations based on their goals. And then I teach them exactly how to optimize all of their career material. Then I prep them on how to interview and mock interviews and what that looks like. Then I show them how to do networking within that industry and within the organizations that they're interested in, showing them authentic networking and how that's done. And then I teach them how to negotiate the salary that they deserve and how now confident to ask for, because they've gone through that whole process and now they know themselves. Because the most important piece is they know themselves now, and to feel that confident to be able to say they know themselves and they know the market and they know the market demands. And then they walk into those interviews and those negotiations a lot more confidently. And I don't mean overconfident. I mean just right, because that's the experience I share with them, right? As a recruiter, you don't want to go in overconfident. No. You want to go in confident. And so at the end of the program, you are now, you know exactly how to do all of those things that I talked about, and then how to continue on and learn further. So let's say you learn this one time and you do this step by step one time, then you can do this again and again, 10 years from now, 5 years from now. You don't need me to do it because I've taught you how.
I love that. But you know what, based on your experience, what common mistakes do job seekers make, and how can they avoid them?
When you ask somebody what's the most important thing in their life, the response that you get is family. Okay, that's always the first response. And then when you ask what's the second most important thing in your life, usually people say my career, my job. It's what feeds my kids. It's exactly what, I maintain my life with. And so it's that important, right? And I feel that people don't necessarily plan for it as important as they say it is. Okay. Right. So if it's that important, you would think that they would be putting more effort into it. And I'll give you an example. If you lost your job, or let's say you don't, you're looking for a new job because you're so tired of your boss, or you just hate being at the company that you're in. The first thing you'll do is you'll open up your resume, you'll update your resume, and then you'll start applying. You'll look at jobs that look similar to your background and you apply. And people usually struggle saying, well, I didn't get a response. And, I didn't. And in my mind, that isn't quite the way that you want to do it. You want to customize almost every application that you submit, which can sound daunting and sounds like a lot of work. But I've actually, over the course of the decade, if you will, I've figured out a way to enhance it with artificial intelligence so that you don't have to take hours and hours on customization. However, I think that is something people don't realize. They don't realize how important your career is. And then they also don't realize that if you just, start mass applying, it's not going to get, seen from on the other end, from a recruiter or a hiring manager, because it seems very generic.
Yes. So looking back at your journey, what advice would you give to your younger self just starting in New York City?
Oh my God, my younger self, I would tell myself that I was living in a la-la land, thinking that things would just walk to me, and that if I had a little bit harder or maybe just a little bit effort, I'll be honest with you, I put in a lot of time, effort, and work because I really, truly, am obsessed with my career, if you will. And so I did. But if I could tell myself anything, it would be that each and every experience that I had in all of the jobs that I had, sometimes you feel like you're just always right. And you almost have to go back and try to figure out, what did I learn from this? Maybe I was right in that situation when I walked away from that job because I couldn't handle it in that moment. But what could I have done differently on my side? And it's hard to think about those things sometimes, but I think it's important to take each lesson as a learned lesson And so if I could tell myself, a decade ago, I would say to myself, instead of being so emotional about the decisions that I make when it was coming to my career, that I had put that strategy or that roadmap together prior to being in that situation.
So how can someone reach out to you for your help?
Well, if you are interested in reaching out to me, you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I can share my website with you where you can book a strategy call with me. And I offer a free weekly career newsletter, which you can, sign up for and have access to. I provide updates on careers and what's happening in the market on a weekly basis. So you can absolutely go in there and sign up for that. And once you sign up, you have access to reading everything about me, my story, my journey, my client success stories. They're all right there for you to be able to see. And you can also go back to LinkedIn and verify some of those client success stories, because I also have them as recommendations on my LinkedIn page. And then, you could book a strategy call directly with me, or I even am doing 15-minute discovery calls for anyone who's interested in learning more about how I can help them.
Absolutely. And I think if you want to help how to grow your career, you better get the help from someone who actually did it.
Yes, 100%. Because I've walked those shoes. Agreed.
You did it, yes. And you walk away from a job and you make something even bigger out of it. And I think that's something, your experience is priceless. And that is not something you can really pay money for. Regardless how much you pay, it's not enough, because those experiences come also with their own suffering, their own aggravation that you have to go through. And for you to take that and pass it on to somebody else, it costs way more than what people can think of, because those experiences are priceless.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for giving me that chance to talk to you, and then for sharing your insight, and for being honest. It's like I went through it, and yes, but I made it out, and now I can help you do it too. And I think that as women, we go through a lot, and sometimes we put ourselves in a box and we don't share with others. But those experiences are meant to be sharing. Those knowledge, those wisdoms, they are meant to be given to others. And I think that's what you are doing. And keep doing it. Your daughters will be proud.
Thank you so much. It was amazing talking with you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.